Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And you can follow us on Facebook if you search for the group Sharpie Nation. That's our private group where you'll get all the exclusive updates of the show, and we'll let you in. You just have to ask to enter. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're at Fancounters Live. And if you so choose, you can email us at
hello@fancounters.com.
Now, Elizabeth, my mom just returned from a long trip to Arizona. She and my stepdad go there to winter over there.
Yes, they're snowbirds.
Yes, they are. And so they have an RV, and they pull a trailer behind it, and they have this little tiny toy car that they ride around in. So tiny that I wouldn't really feel comfortable because I don't think it would take the impact of any kind of accident.
Is it a smart car?
It's not. It's just, I wish I knew what it was, but it barely fits two people in it.
Okay.
It's almost like a smart. Well, the smart car, that's a little tiny. Well,
that's the toy one.
Okay, that's not the name of it, but anyway.
Yeah, okay.
So they took this thing out, and they're in some desert road, and they like to look for rocks that might have crystals inside.
Okay.
So that's kind of what they do. So they're off, doing their thing, finding rocks and taking stuff and all that. And my mom gets tired, and she's like, I'm going to go back to the car, and I'll just wait for you. So my mom's sitting in the car, and behind her comes a state trooper, Arizona state trooper. And he puts on the lights. And my mom's like, well, what is going on? I've just pulled over here. So the cop comes over, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm just waiting for my husband. He's off looking for rocks over there. He goes, oh, yeah? Did you find anything? And she's like, well, yeah, I found a few rocks here. He goes, well, show me. So my mom shows her, and she goes, is there a problem? And he's like, well, you're on federal land. This is a crime. You can't take anything from here.
What federal land is she on? Is she on a reservation?
No, but she's on federal property, like a National Park Service property or something.
Okay.
And so she's like, well, my husband is still out gathering. And he's like, well, I'll wait. So they wait for him to come back. And obviously my stepdad sees the cop, and he's like, what is going on? And he goes, did you find any? What'd you find out there? And he shows her. And he's like, yeah, this is federal land, and you're trespassing. So they could have gotten arrested for being on this federal land. They're like totally freaked out. But they had Wisconsin plates on the car.
Sure.
So he knew they weren't local
right.
And all of that. He did end up letting them go with a warning, but they had to throw all their rocks back onto the land. And that he waited until they left.
Oh.
So she came home with that wonderful story of how she almost got arrested, and I was going to have to send some bail money or something. But anyway, great show today. Long time in the making on this one.
Okay.
It is happening today. Today's the day. I've made it no secret that I started Fancounters with Elizabeth after I had heard Christine Lakin and Alaa Khaled on the Worst Ever podcast. They interview their celebrity friends about their worst ever moments. And I've always kind of had a fascination with celebrities. Even since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a child star. And I thought, well, I'm not a child star. Maybe I can be an adult TV star. Yeah, right.
How's that going for you?
It's not happening at all. So I always wonder what their real lives were like. Like, I'll watch a show and I'm like, are they thinking about what they're making for dinner when they go home? Or things like that. So specifically, I thought, let's think of a real hook we could use for a show, which is why we ask them about their encounters with fans, because I think that that's really fascinating. Obviously, Elizabeth agreed to do the show with me, and here we are, 88 episodes in, and she's still here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So today on the show, Alaa Khaled from Worst Ever Podcast is going to be our guest, and I can't thank him enough for joining us because he truly is our inspiration for this show. And you would know Alaa Khaled as the brother of the world-famous DJ Khaled, but he's much more than that. Alaa has more entertaining, outrageous, and funny stories. I seriously think the guy needs to write a book, and you're going to find that out today.
Alaa has appeared and had roles in many well-known projects like Project Runway All Stars, Can't Hardly Wait, Hannah Montana, and The Sweet Life on Deck, Charmed, Felicity, Saved by the Bell, Crossing Jordan, and more. He has also toured with Barbara Streisand and is featured on her timeless live in concert TV specials. Here is
Alaa Khaled.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters with Nick and Elizabeth on the PodFix network.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours.
If I'm having dinner with my wife, don't sit down at my table. Don't follow me into the bathroom.
Can I take a picture? We're gonna. Oh my God.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
Well, guess what? I have a big surprise for you.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
Alaa Khaled, welcome to Fancounters. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Now, I'm really excited that you're here on the show. If you've listened to us at all, you know that we started this podcast because I was personally inspired by what you and Christine Lakin were doing over at Worst Ever Podcast. And it was after hearing your show, I hooked up with not literally, but I met up with Elizabeth, who used to be my boss at a radio station. And we thought that we could put together our own celebrity podcast, kind of talking about people's encounters with fans, because a lot of times you'll leave and say, oh, I met so-and-so and they were great. But what did the celebrity think about your encounter? Maybe they didn't think it was so great.
Right.
So that's why we started this show. But because I was so inspired by what you guys were doing.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you.
To give you an idea of myself, I'm a filmmaker. I was the person who you may have heard of. I developed a pilot with Beverly Mitchell that we called Growing Up Hollywood, which was pitched but never picked up. So that's kind of how I got, I was obviously,
how funny.
I was obviously a fan of Christine's for forever, but every time Beverly's on the show, I'm like, I got to listen to see what she's doing now.
So wait a minute. So Growing Up Hollywood, was that, give me the synopsis of that, because I think I remember this going around. It was it sort of like on the Hollywood Darlings kind of tip, or is it?
Well, it was a scripted show about a child star that is kind of pulled from her surroundings and put in a normal town to readjust to life away from the spotlight. But then when we revamped that idea, it became kind of just following a child star on the set of different shows and navigating like a teenage love life and things like that. So.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. We love Beverly. She's a sweetheart.
She is.
I love making fun of Beverly and all her freebies. She loves a gift bag, let me tell you.
And I want to ask you about that in a little bit, because I have a celebrity question that I know that you can answer, and because I've listened to you so much, I kind of feel like I don't have to be so guarded in my questions.
No.
So
no, don't.
I feel like you're a free shooter as well. So
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Worst Ever Podcast, how the show got started, where you're at with it now. Give us a synopsis.
Yeah, sure. So Worst Ever Podcast, we sort of went backwards when it came to the industry and this show itself. We originally started the show as a live show called Worst Audition Ever. And it sort of, I did the first incarnation of it in this small theater in Silver Lake, which is like right outside of Hollywood. And it was literally our actor friends telling their worst audition stories with multimedia behind us, sort of as another character and music. And it was like literally 5 to 10 minute stories in front of a live audience that are really wasted. And it sort of just became a cult phenomenon in this small like space, this 99 seat theater or lounge, I should say. And so we sort of expanded it to every time we do it like once or twice a month live, and we would expand it to like worst vacation ever, worst Valentine's ever, depending on worst holidays ever, depending on the theme of the show. And then we had some producers that saw the show, and we've always thought it would be a great television show. And so we ended up doing a pilot for the Pop Network, ironically, where Hollywood Darlings lived, and Christine worked, but it was way before Hollywood Darlings. And so they gave us enough money to shoot a pilot, and we shot a pilot called Worst Ever, and it was celebrities telling their worst ever stories in live theater form, and then we would cut from the story to reenactments, sort of like a la Drunk History.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
It would be other celebrities mouthing the words that they were saying live on stage, but being reenacted in a scene. And then we also added animation. So some of the stories would be completely animated, and it would cut back and forth from the live storytelling.
Seriously, were you all drunk when you came up with that?
No, we were just so passionate about the project, because the great thing about celebrities and Worst Ever is that we felt like the normal audience, their fans, always put them in a higher level because they're celebrities,
right,
rather than looking at them and saying, you know what, some of these people had a horrible date or they had a terrible vacation, and it makes the celebrity more relatable. So we would get celebrities to tell these stories because it helped them connect with their fans on a more of a real basis.
We love the premise.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So then we saw, we were like, okay, so the pilot didn't get picked up. There was just Pop revamped, the new executives came in, and that happens all the time. So they wanted to gear their network into a different venue. So it didn't get picked up. So we're like, well, what can we do? And Christine was like, let's do a podcast. And we hooked up with Stephen Ray Morris, who, works on My Favorite Murder, and he helped start the podcast, and the rest is history.
Now, do you always have friends on the show, or have you brought on celebrities that have not been friends?
Well, it's either my friends or her friends. We did get a request recently from someone we don't know, a pretty big celebrity, that wanted us to come and have them or call in and promote a book through their publicist, which we've never had. So usually it's people we know, but because to be honest with you, I don't really because I come from this world. I don't want to call on publicists and say, can we please have your, actor or whatever. It's weird to me. So, cause we're just we're just trying to have fun.
Right.
But I think we're going to start requesting, and we're actually going to revamp the show. It might come up with a different title and just start a whole new show with episode 1. We just talked about it today, actually. So there might not be any more Worst Ever. It might be a whole new show. We haven't decided yet.
Ooh.
So just to rebrand everything. But I just did 2 Cups of Joe. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
So I'm friends with Joey Fatone and Joe Movill, who are on that show, and that's why I'm in Florida. My high school music teacher had a surprise retirement party and his retirement concert, and so a lot of the alumni came back. So it was me, Joey Fatone, Luis Fonsi, who sings that Despacito song, and a bunch of us, and so we all came and sang in his choir and had a surprise party for him. Anyways, I just did their podcast while I was in town, and that was a lot of fun too. And if you get a chance to listen to that, it's going to be quite some stories from our childhood. But yeah.
You have a lot of stories, that's for sure. I mean, and entertaining things. I mean, so many things happen to you. It's kind of amazing.
Well, my life is sort of a nightmare. So I just relish in the fact that things always either go wrong or just I run into the craziest. Can I cuss on this thing? Because I'm trying to keep myself. I won't cuss, but I want to. So a lot of poop happens to me all the time.
Okay, so you and Christine are obviously known each other for a long time, and apparently even serving as her doula, which we'll talk about in a little bit. When and where did you both meet, and were you instant friends?
No, so we met in acting class, and this was during the time where there's no social media, so you actually met people in person, and,
right.
and so we were in acting class, and our teacher, who is Melora Hardin, who was a guest of ours from what's her show on Freeform. Anyway, she played Jan on The Office. Her mother was our teacher and Christine's manager, and so the class was full of child stars. It was Nicole Tom, Heather Tom, David Tom, Allison Mack, me, Christine Lakin, just a bunch of young kids who were in the business, who were working at the time. So Christine's a significant amount of years younger than I am. And so she was like 14 when I met her, 15 when I met her, and I was like 22. So we weren't like friends at that time, but we kept in touch just because of the business and favors here and favors there, and
sure,
running into each other at reunions and, or even auditions or whatever it was. And then we reconnected when she was producing Worst Audition Ever for the live show, and she asked me to do it. And that's when we just reconnected. And then, the rest is history.
Now, your image and how you look is very important to booking roles, and I get that. So at the top of the show, before we get too far along, you had a little accident. So I want you to tell our listeners about
my tooth?
Yes, and I want you to tell us about your GoFundMe, so maybe we can up your price a little bit.
I want to up that because people stop donating. I don't know why, because I think they think I'm joking. I'm like, no, I want that money for my teeth. I was living in Koreatown for a year, which was a nightmare. But I was living in Koreatown, and I had this staircase, and this is the first time I've actually, in years since college, had to go to like a laundry room in my building. And so I had a laundry room, and then laundry for me, just so you know, is a very zen thing. I love doing my laundry. It's like I have the day of the week that I do my laundry. It happens, like it's timed, the whole thing. I was bringing my clothes up to my apartment, and there's like a half inch to an inch on each stair, like a lip that goes forward, out. And I was wasn't looking down because I had my laundry basket, and I tripped, and my mouth hit the corner of the banister, and it knocked my tooth out.
Oh, well.
Ouch. Now, your phone had nothing to do with this, right? You weren't like trying to text and carry a basket or...
No, I literally was just carrying my laundry basket. That was it. It was in the middle of the day because Christine was like, you had to be drunk. Because, I'm notorious for being drunk. And I was like, no, I was totally sober. It was a nightmare. And as a result, the other tooth had to come out because it damaged that tooth. And it was a whole thing.
So you have a GoFundMe set up. Where can we find that?
I have a GoFundMe. So it's GoFundMe.com/Alaa's New Grill, ALAASNEWGRILL. Please help a brother out.
Exactly. Especially if you love what we're going to talk about here today. Go help a guy out.
Yeah, come on.
So
I want to get those implants.
What's your status right now? Do you have something filling the hole or what?
Oh yeah. Oh, are you kidding? I wouldn't leave the house.
Well,
no,
I figured.
I have a partial, and I'm getting a bridge as soon as I'm right now. I'm on the East Coast working, so I'm not going to be back in LA till the end of June.
Okay.
And and my parents live in Jacksonville, Florida, so I came down to see them, had some time off, and then I went to this reunion and saw the boys and had some fun with those guys, and now I'm headed back to Jacksonville. I'm sitting, by the way, in a Starbucks parking lot in Daytona Beach, Florida, on my way back to Jacksonville.
So you were in college when you decided you wanted to be an actor, but that really wasn't an option in your parents' mind because you were supposed to take over their clothing store. But now that you're an actor and your brother is a huge music artist, at what point, if ever, were your parents okay with your choices and not taking over the store?
Oh, now that they're retired and they know how the retail business, because there is no, malls are shutting down left and right now.
Yep.
They're just, online business is taking over. So I think they're okay with it now. But it actually was in high school when I decided to become an actor. And I told my father I was going to go away to acting school. And that's when he kicked me out of the car and left me on the side of the road. But he's okay with it now because both my brother and I are obviously successful, and they're retired, so they don't have to worry about anything. And but yeah, he still dreams about opening another store, and I keep telling my dad, I go, Dad,
not a good idea.
There's no. First of all, no one's wearing suits anymore because that's what he sold, like really high end suits. And I was like, no one's wearing suits anymore, and you're not going to. You can't compete with the online business.
Right.
No. We hardly buy anything in stores anymore. We actually even went to go look for a bicycle last night, picked it out, and now I'm ordering it online.
Yeah, see, so
You're the reason
that's
stores
the
are
thing.
shutting down.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I grew up in a mall. I always said I grew up in a mall. Both Khaled and I grew up in a mall. My friends were kiosk friends. I wouldn't work on a Sunday because Chick-fil-A was closed. I lived mall life. And I look at malls now and I'm going, wow, I don't know what's going to happen if people are not coming to these things anymore.
Right.
Right, and they're tearing them down left and right here up in the Midwest. So,
yeah.
Alaa, you've had some amazing projects in your past and a few that I want to touch on briefly. One of them was touring with Barbara Streisand, and you were filming some live performances with her as well. So, but although I heard the whole story, I never really got what exactly you were doing. Were you a musician, an accompanist, a dancer? What was your role?
When Barbara was 12, I think she was 12 years old, her mother was a famous opera singer. She would do recording sessions for like albums. And when she had time left in her recording session, she would give it to Barbara.
Okay.
So I played the guy who ran the recording session and played her accompanist. In the live show, which is actually a real person, and apparently this guy was a jackass, and he was very rude to Barbara because he would teach her a song, and in true Barbara fashion, she heard it a different way, and that's why her music's so amazing. She would hear it a different way and sing it in her own style, and it drove this guy crazy. So this guy was the first person who told Barbara Streisand that she would never make it in the business. So in the live show, which was her concert, but it was a biography pretty much of her life, Kenny Ortega directed it. I literally tell her, the whole opening, I open the show. It's Savion Glover, the tap dancer, who takes us to the 1950s through tap. And then I come out with Barbara's mother and young Barbara, and we do a whole little scene. And I tell Barbara she'll never make it, and she starts singing, what's the song? Who Knows, Could Be, West Side Story.
We know.
Can't think of it. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so she starts singing that, and there was a whole, with Savion Glover, this whole magic trick, and then young Barbara turns into regular Barbara, and then in the second half of the show, we run into each other again, and I'm the one who does it. I would turn into a waiter. I'm the one who doesn't make it. She makes a joke, and that was it. But I toured with her for like a year on that show.
So you didn't play any piano or accompany, right?
No, and in fact, there was one show we were in Sydney, Australia, and we had 11 elevators on the stage.
Wow!
And so it was so there's 11 elevators, and in the opening, I enter through the LED screen split. There's a big shining light from behind me, and all you see is me in a shadow with sheet music covering myself. And I literally would, because we'd done it so many times, I would know exactly where I was going. And by the time I got to where the piano was supposed to be, the music would land there and the scene would start. And it was a fake piano. The actual pianist was in the orchestra behind us. And so I would fake the piano. But on that day, I looked down to put my music down, and the elevator was open, but the piano wasn't coming up, and the technician was like, had his hands up in the air like it broke. So I had to improv the whole scene without a piano because it's supposed to look like I'm playing the piano. So now I've created this character where I'm like Marvin Hamlish, and I'm directing her instead of, and I'll never forget it. Intermission, Marty Ehrlichman, who to this day is Barbara's manager, I was backstage in Barbara's dressing room, and he came and he started cussing me out and screaming at me because he said I effed up the scene. And then Kenny Ortega ran to me and goes, "Are you crazy? He saved it. Did you see what happened?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, the piano didn't come up.
Yeah.
He's like, "What?" And I go, "Marty, weren't you watching the show?" He goes, "No, let me tell you something, kid. I only walk around the stadium and I listen. I don't look. I just listen for sound." And I go, "The piano didn't come up, Marty. I had to make it up." And there's there's a cue where I slam my hands on the piano when I get so angry at Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of slamming it, I just knew where the cue was, and I was just like, stop! And it went, and then the piano slammed.
Wow.
So anyways, what's great about Barbara is the next day, before the show, she came up to me. She's like, because she watches the show they record the show every night. She'd watch it before she went to bed. So she'd watch the show every night, and she came up to me and she's like, how did you know how to do that? I go, do what? She goes, you just made up all that and made it work. And I go, it's called improv, Barbara. She goes, wow. And she was so impressed, which I was like, but Christine and I grew up in that improv world. That's what we did, you know? So so it was an amazing tour.
So how did Barbara treat the people that she's working with? Do you ever see her, or is she not around, or how is she to work with?
Oh, no, we rehearsed 9 weeks before we went to Vegas to do the Millennium concert in MGM. We rehearsed in Manhattan Beach in a soundstage, and she was at rehearsal every single day, every afternoon. We'd start the morning rehearsal, and then she came in the afternoon, and we would rehearse literally 12 to 14-hour days. She rehearsed about 8, and she rehearsed every day. She sang the whole concert every day, and she treated us with nothing but respect. In fact, the crew that was on the show, it was we did a stadium tour. It was a massive show. They said that since she had married James Brolin, that she's like the sweetest. And I can't say anything bad about her, because everything I experienced from her was nothing but kindness. In fact, our tour manager, they gave us, laminates for when we were starting to actually do the shows. Mm-hmm. And they would give us laminates that you had like full all access or an all access to certain areas or whatever. They gave us a regular all access to certain areas. Me, Randy Heller, who played her mom, and Lauren Frost, who played young Barbara. And then we got a call that next morning from the tour manager, and he goes, I need you to come back in the office. I got to give you new passes. And we're like, what's up? He's like, well, Barbara's never done this, but she wants you in her dressing room at intermission and after the show. And apparently in all her tours, she's never asked for other cast members to come in to hang out with her.
Wow.
So every night after the show, we would have to go, not have to, but like she would ask us to please come and celebrate with her friends like Elizabeth Taylor or Dick Van Dyke or the Clintons. And we would sit in our dressing room and have cocktails and sushi or whatever. And after the show and hang out. So and then after the show, like when we were in Melbourne, she had a huge, gigantic, apartment condo in the hotel we were at. And she insisted that we all come up for our after party. And I met Donna Carrot in there. And she was very gracious and fun and down to earth. Like I could joke with her, I could cuss with her, she was very sexual in the sense, she was a normal person.
That's awesome to hear. You want to hear that about
you do, yeah.
people that you kind of idolize and have appreciated for so many years.
Yeah, she was. I think James Brolin really changed her life. Like she had never been antiquing or anything like that, and they would rent a van and drive cross country. And I remember I was talking to Richard J. Alexander, who ended up taking the second half of the tour. He directed the second half, and he was telling me that like he took her to a 99-cent store, and she was like freaking out how amazing it was. So, but you have to understand that she was an icon at 16 to 18. She started being an icon, so she never really got to experience what we experienced. So
that's funny. That would have been funny to be behind the counter at that. Everything is 99 cents, even this. And what about this?
Yeah.
I know, I love that.
I get it.
I remember when she invited me to the Rosh Hashanah dinner because she thought I was Jewish. And Donna Kane was hosting a Rosh Hashanah dinner. We were ending our show at Madison Square Gardens, and she's like, she called me at my hotel room. Personally called me and was like, and she'd say Alec because my stage name is Alec. Mm-hmm. She's like, Alec, are you staying in New York for a couple of days? I go, yeah. She goes, will you please come to Rosh Hashanah? And I was like, of course, but I'm Muslim. I'm not Jewish at all, and so it was fascinating.
Did you have to look up like what you were going to go to? Because I would have to.
Yeah, I had to call friends and go, and someone told me, just say you love the Kugel, and I was like, all right. It was, I had no idea what I was about to do, but it was fun. God rest his soul, Marvin Hamlish was there with his wife, and they had a small band on the yacht, and we had a blast. It was so much fun.
Now, moving on, I want to know a little bit more about your connection to the Mickey Mouse Club. I know that you were an adult 18-year-old guardian of a 17-year-old cast member. I get that part of it.
Right.
You toured with them then, and this was kind of the 90s version of the Mickey Mouse Club. Is that right?
Yeah, it was the reincarnation of the Mouse Club on the Disney Channel. It sort of like put Disney Channel on the map when it was a subscription channel. Mm-hmm. On cable TV. It was started in 87-ish. They started 87, 88. So it was the original cast before Britney, and then it was like 4 seasons before that I became friends with them. So
who were you the guardian of?
I was a guardian of Chase Hampton, who I just got off the phone with him last week. They're actually doing a 30-year reunion of the Mouseketeers in Orlando on May 23rd, a 3-day thing. Joey Patone's hosting it. It's a big fundraiser for Pulse, and about 70 to 80% of the Mouseketeers are going to be there. So it's going to be sort of like a Mouseketeer con, It's going to be. But I was Chase's guardian. It was Chase, Albert Fields, Dee Dee Magno, Damon Pampolina, Tiffany Hale were part of the original cast, and then what happened was when they got a little bit older, Disney created Hollywood Records, mm-hmm. and they were their launching group called The Party, because at that time New Kids on the Block was huge, and so those like boy bands that were like big, so they were like, let's do our own, and they launched The Party. And so I had graduated high school in 1990, and I was moving to New York the fall of that year. And in the summer, Chase had to go record with The Party in LA, but his parents had normal jobs in Orlando, so they couldn't just quit their jobs. So, his mom was a school teacher, and his dad, I think it was like an insurance salesman or something. But so they asked me, since I was 18, and I had been friends with them for so many years. I mean, I practically lived at their homes, and our parents were all friends, if I would be their his official guardian, knowing that, because I wasn't at that time, I wasn't a big drinker or partier, and I was pretty responsible. So
at that time,
so I was like, sure. At that time, so I was like, until I went to college, when I experienced like freedom, and so I was pretty responsible. So they gave me an apartment with Chase, and I would make him grilled cheeses every day and call it a day, and take him to recording sessions, and sort of just toured with them when they performed, just for the summer.
Now, you don't know this,
we're friends.
But Chase and Damon and Dale Gabaldo are going to be our guests in about an hour for an upcoming show to promote that Mickey Mouse Club reunion. Let's talk about Mickey Mouse Club real quick. So Britney Spears was a part of that group at some point, right?
Correct.
So here's my question about this. Kind of get your insight. So Britney Spears had that moment several years when she kind of went crazy. You were on Hannah Montana before Miley Cyrus did the same thing and kind of like tried to do everything she could to distance herself from being that wholesome image. So while they're having all these meltdowns and this crazy behavior, why do you think that those specific child stars felt the need to act out and distance themselves from the wholesome image in such an extreme way?
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think that Miley Cyrus did it in an extreme way?
I think that it was risque enough to shock people, yeah.
Oh, okay, because with Miley, I just saw it as a normal transition. Like, I didn't think it was that shocking.
Well, I mean, she was leaking photos with, her shirt raised and, since then has posed topless and that kind of thing. It's not something you would expect from her.
Not bad. I expect it only because that's a Southern thing. I think it's like, and for me, it's like, oh, that's like another hillbilly hoo-ha. It's like a Southern thing. But no, Miley, I feel like she's okay. Like I think she's together. Britney, for me, and this is just my opinion, and so I think, and I dealt with it with other people that I know from the industry. I think with Britney, there's a chemical imbalance there. So it sort of triggered at some point in her life with exhaustion and possibly, I can't speak for her because I don't know what exactly happened. But Britney was in her, when it was like her first album was with the Lou Pearlman years and all that. She was just sort of like, her image was created by someone else. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was
like
not who she was.
Like the schoolgirl thing.
Yep.
Like that was, you know, and at that time, that's when kids like from the Moscow or whatever would go to Germany or whatever to record and become stars over there first and sort of test out the albums. And it wasn't, you know, it was when there was like record deals and they would just, and it was when a lot of manufactured images were happening. Like they would just, record labels and managers would create this personality. So I think what came from that Britney thing, I think she evolved eventually into her own style, just like Christina Aguilera. You know, she came from Mouse Club as well,
right?
Went through the Mulan Disney thing, and then once she broke away from that record deal, she sort of just evolved into her real personality, you know.
So Britney is saying that she's going to retire and that she's not going to perform again. Do you really think she's done?
No. I think that she's going through something and she should take a rest. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And, you know, she's been working pretty much the majority of her life. I get it. So, I mean, I think she'll take a rest. And I think when you're a performer in general, no matter how much money you make, you can't take it out of you. You know what I mean? It's just, it's inherent. It's innate. It's what you got. And so there'll be a moment where she's probably like, you know what? I want to do something, even if it's like a one-time thing or whatever it is. And she might explore other avenues in her career. She might get back into acting. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, let's talk a little bit.
I don't think she'll be done.
Okay, and I don't either. I think because the reason for the break obviously was her dad is in ill health apparently, and she's going to tend to family matters, which you need to, especially when she has the financial ability to do that. I think she'll be back.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you know, you can't take it out of her.
Now, Alaa, I know that one of your favorite things is reality television. Mine too. In fact, I got your attention when we talked about Love After Lockup, which is coming back in June with kind of an update series of shows where they're going to follow guests afterwards, which is okay. We'll have to see how that goes. But what about Love After Lockup captivated you with that show?
Well, it's with reality in general. I've always been a fly on the wall kind of personality. Like I can sit like I'm sitting in this parking lot just watching people, mm-hmm. and I'm created all of my scenarios on what they're doing and what they do, and you know, blah blah blah. It's that same thing. I'm living in New York. When I was going to acting school, I think this sort of triggered it. Is that we, as part of a semester of exercise, we had to do life studies. So one semester we would do life studies of people who are at least 10 to 15 years older than us. And we have to pick one person and follow them throughout the semester. Okay. And then create that same person at the end of the semester as it evolved. And I would pick and then at the second semester, we had to do kids 10 years or younger. And I was obsessed with Rick Moranis. Okay. And he lived in my area. So I would follow his child.
Oh, this sounds like a bad story.
I know it sounds so creepy, but because I lived near Central Park and they would always be at the park nearby and blah, blah. So his child was my lifesaver, but I created this whole scenario. I never went up to Rick Moranis. I've always been obsessed with Rick Moranis. Little Shop of Horrors is my favorite musical. So I was always obsessed with Rick, and I've actually been in the same space as him. Never walked up to him. I'm not I don't do that fan encounter. I just stay, away. But I freak out. So I think that triggered this whole reality thing, because when the Housewives happened, mm-hmm. and then Love After Lockup, I'm obsessed with the fact that there are actual people who think that they're going to get some successful relationship out of a prisoner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, because, and I was actually listening to Howard Stern this morning, and Tracy Morgan was on, and I guess on his show, Chrissy Metz plays a woman who falls in love with ex-cons and prisoners, and he was saying it's but when they're out of prison, they're not in a relationship, but when they're in prison, it's a relationship. It makes sense because at 9:00, lights go out. You know what your boyfriend or girlfriend or fiance are doing,
Right.
So
Yep.
that's it. So I don't know. I love to see that either they're going to succeed or not. The craziness, the fact that they've been in prison for like 5 to 7 years. That, you know, I had a cousin who was in prison for 12 years, and he. You know, iPhone came out at the time, like things were happening around him. He had no idea. So like he came out of like prison and he could not function because technology had happened and he wasn't ready for it. So, and he failed and went back to prison.
Oh,
so,
man.
yeah. I mean, he's passed away since, but yes. Anyways, but yeah, so I get it. And so what's your obsession with it?
Oh my gosh. Just the fact that these people will write to these inmates, and then it's just the craziness that they expect out of them. Like, I couldn't wait to talk when I had Jana on the show, because she really thought that Garrett guy was going to settle down and go back to, like, I'm going to have, you know, immediately want kids and get married. And it's like, or the people that, like that Clint who got married to Tracy the day she got out of prison. It's like, are you people crazy? Like, you don't even know these people. It's kind of like the worst pen pal situation you could ever have. This is not a you've got mail situation.
And they finance them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And the collect calls. I mean, I don't know if you know how much a prison collect call is.
No.
It's expensive.
Wow.
It's really expensive. Do you watch 90 Day Fiancé?
I'm not obsessed, but I've seen it, and I love it.
I'm obsessed with it. Like, I think it's the best TV ever. I'm like, it's so good. I'm obsessed with that show. Well, you know that I created a reality show for my family, not with my brother, but with my cousin in New Orleans, that Authentic Media produced along with me and Alyssa Milano, and it didn't get picked up, but Authentic also did Honey Boo Boo. That show.
Can we please talk about that? Thank you for bringing that up. Elizabeth is like, oh my God, when is this going to be done?
I am not a reality fan.
Okay, here's the thing with Honey Boo Boo. I think that when the show was Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, and they were all living in that small house by the railroad track, I happen to think that was fairly real. But I can tell you, because we've had a guest from the Mama June show on, that show is scripted. And you can tell that it's scripted, especially this season in particular, and the last one, I suppose. But I don't know how much of that is real. And that was my question I was going to ask you. Are there any really real reality shows out there? Because this Mama June thing is completely on paper.
Right. So Mama June's scripted, or what we call softly scripted, right? Like they give them the scenarios of what they want to happen or whatever. The Honey Boo Boo series, when they were living on the railroad tracks, whatever, that was reality in the sense of, like, everything that happened was naturally happening. The only thing that might have happened is, like, they might, like, go, oh, this time, you know, they might say, you're going to go to a fair or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or why don't you put butter on the kitchen floor and see what happens?
Right. But everything around it would happen, only because I've worked with that same production company, so I know how it works. So I literally produced it with my show. I produced with them, and all we did was set up locations and people that would stop by. The relationships that they had and what came on camera was real. So with the Honey Boo Boo, the Mama June is not produced by the same people. In fact, after the Honey Boo Boo scandal happened with Mama, that's when they dropped the show. And obviously, you know, that came out of Toddlers and Tiara.
Oh, yeah.
Which they produced as well. Yeah.
Well, that production company dropped the show because the show's still on. Like, all those shows had to be in the can.
Right. No, yeah. No, well, I'm talking about Honey Boo. The
Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. Yeah.
Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. The Mama June stuff. I'm not talking about this new scandal. I'm talking about the scandal when she was
the
dating
child
a pedophile.
molester. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. But the I lost my train of thought. So so this Mama June thing, I don't know. But like with reality shows, like for instance, like let's. And I'm sorry that you're probably bored, Elizabeth.
No, I'm not. I'm paying attention.
All right. So listen. So the reality shows, like let's say Real Housewives, from what I gather is that it's the call sheet pretty much determines what's going to happen. For instance, like say one of the reality stars does not get along with the other reality star. All they do is they put
them together.
They have a call time. They put them together, and the stuff goes down, right?
Okay.
Because that's really what they're doing. The location is obviously set up, but because if it were up to some of these people, they're like, that's why you see on these reunion things, well, I heard you said you didn't want to film with me. They always say that because they don't want to film with them, but they don't have a choice.
Right.
Because they're under contract.
Well, and I think some of those cat fights just get out of hand just because the cameras are there. Like if I didn't like somebody and I am forced to have lunch with you, I think I would still be polite. You know what I'm saying? Like, but because I'm being paid and there's a reality show, I'm going to be mean.
I do, but that's all right. Yeah.
We're a family show.
No, I think you're wrong, actually, because there's a certain point, and only from experience, because I've done it, there's a certain point where you really forget that the cameras are there.
Okay.
And also, you have to think of these camera people. You're assigned to certain producers. Each person has their own producer that they're assigned to. So very much like you see on Teen Mom, right? Where you always, now they've broken the fourth wall.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you see that person, they're always going to that person. So it's not like they're filming them for a week and then they don't see them again. They're there every single day with them. So they become sort of another person that's sort of in their family. So they're very comfortable around these people. The cameras are forgotten. At some point, the cameras are forgotten, believe me.
Okay.
And I think that they really do. These casting directors are very good about picking people that will not, that sort of, they know it's going to cause controversy,
Mm-hmm.
I love reality. I could talk about it all day long.
What's your very favorite one?
I'm in a huge Real Housewives. Every
I was going to say all of them or one city?
No, all of them. I even watched Melbourne, and I watched Cheshire, Real Housewives of Cheshire, which you have to only get online. And I have to watch the Cheshire one 3 times each episode because I can't understand the word they're saying. But yeah, I watch all the Housewives. I did watch Dance Moms. And I'm looking forward to them coming back. My friend, my actual old next door neighbor in Burbank, when I lived in Burbank, he created that show. He co-created that show.
Oh wow!
And yeah.
The drama that we watched, my wife and I, the first 3 seasons, maybe 4, and then it kind of got to be the same thing, so we stopped. But the drama that went down on that show.
On Dance Moms?
Oh yeah. They're constantly fighting with each other.
Well, I don't watch the show, but the guest we had previously to you is like a dancer, and we asked the questions, would you ever go on Dance Moms? And she's like a 12-year-old, and she goes, no, that woman yells at everybody.
Right. Yeah. No, and then I even watch I watch everything I can. I even watch. It's going to sound crazy. I loved becoming a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. I watch everything.
How do you have enough time to watch all this stuff?
Well, I DVR everything and then I binge. And
I have a line.
The only ones I don't really get into are the competition shows.
Okay. Yeah, I don't watch America's Got Talent and stuff like that.
Well, I'm an Amazing Race fan. I'm trying to get Christina and I on Amazing Race.
Yeah.
So, or Big Brother. I would do Big Brother in a heartbeat.
And you think you'll win that show? You'll win that show.
I would definitely win that show. No doubt in my mind.
How do you win on Big Brother? You have to be the last one in the house?
You have to be the last one standing.
Okay.
I'm just such a manipulator and socialite that I know I could. That's part of what the one thing I say about my parents that I loved and hated is that we moved every 3 years growing up. So literally I would change schools every 3 years. So I would have to learn to fit in no matter where I was, what city or state I was. And so it helped me. So I know in that house, I could totally manipulate every kind of person that would be in there.
I would love to see that.
Oh, please start a campaign. Get me on Big Brother. And Christine and I want to do Amazing Race because I would do all the manipulating plus the miles. I want to collect the miles. And then, Christine can do all the athletic stuff.
I'm not sure. I'm with Christine on this. I don't think you get to collect the miles on that show. I mean, if they're paying for all the tickets, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. It's in my name. They have to give me my miles.
Look,
you can't get on a plane without it being in your name.
That's true.
You have to collect the miles.
All right. I want to be respectful of your time. I literally have another page and a half of questions because I didn't know how fast we go through stuff. There's so many things I want to ask you, but
he's been jonesing for you to be on this show forever.
I've talked about you now at least for 20 episodes. So. Yeah. Look, I want to talk.
What's so fascinating? That's why I'm so curious because everyone's like, what? Because if you saw the amount of hate mail that I get.
Are you kidding?
Oh my God, people are freaking because I'm so mean to Christine, which is actually like a brother-sister relationship.
That's how I hear it.
It's not, yeah. But like they're such fans of Christine Lakin that they want to go out. Which, by the way, fans who hate me, I love it. Like it doesn't hurt. Like I love the hate mail. I'm like, this is great.
All right, look, I've got a real question I want to ask you about. We alluded to it at the beginning of the show. I want to make sure I get to it. It's something I really, really have always wondered about. When you have an actor or an actress that have been on a series for years, say Beverly, 11 years on Seventh Heaven, Christine Lakin, 8 or whatever years on Step by Step. What my question is, and you don't have to specifically talk about a person. I don't want you to divulge personal information, but isn't that enough money to set them up where they don't really have to worry about money anymore? I mean, if you're on a show for 10 years, didn't you make enough where penny pinching isn't a problem?
No. It depends on the series. It depends on how your contracts are, who negotiated your contracts. With most series, it's a 3-year contract, and then it goes into renegotiation.
And that's where you can make more money.
Right. You don't make money until it goes into syndication.
Okay.
So you're talking 100 episodes, because you can't do syndication with less than 100 episodes. So if it sells for syndication, then like for instance, like I can talk to you about this. She's my best friend, Alyssa Milano, Charmed, 8 years. Huge syndication. It's on multiple times a day. It dwindles down the more it airs, obviously, and the later years go. But she was also a producer on that show as well, so she's got points and whatever. But so she did a good job. So with Step by Step, I don't, or any other actors, especially on ensemble cast, you're getting the first 3 years you're getting paid a certain amount. If you become a breakout star, you could probably renegotiate your contract so that it's beneficial to you in the long run. But that money runs out fairly quickly. You remember, you have to pay, I don't know if you know what California taxes are, but it's like, I think 33 to 38%.
Wow.
Plus your agents and managers' fees. There's a lot of money that's taken out of your checks. And now with the way television is, very different landscape. It's not just networks. You're dealing with cable, different contracts, and now you're dealing with streaming. Streaming more than likely does not offer residuals. So you're getting a flat fee to do an episode or a series of a show per episode. You're not getting we're in the middle of negotiating the streaming contracts because actors are getting screwed over because it's a streaming platform. Mm-hmm. So there's so many different, and now with like online and and these like the YouTube and so everything is now, it's about social media and it's like the music business. Like my brother, he he's going to put out an album, I think, in the next week or so. That'll come out. But his majority of his money is going to be coming from touring. That's where he's going to. It's not like when they sold albums, because now it's iTunes or whatever. It's not like when they sold albums back in the day before, you know, those platforms were available. That's when they made money. But now it's about touring and merchandising and appearances, you know.
Yeah, but you release the music so you can go out and make other streams of money.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. Same thing with acting. It's like, you know, Christine could, or whoever, or Beverly could book a Netflix show. It depends on the show and the money that they negotiate and how long the contract will be. But more than likely, you're not going to get a residual check because it just doesn't work. They drop it. That's it.
Right.
I remember doing a commercial, a Visa commercial, and I was getting, I'm not shy to say, I would be getting like $5,000 checks like every 3 or 4 days, you know, like it was like crazy money. And then now commercials, like, because of all the different platforms, it's not the same. You're not getting that kind of money anymore.
So before you mentioned that, although you're a fan of like Rick Moranis or whatever, that you don't necessarily get all wigged out when you see one. Our show is called Fancounters because we want to know what you think of when fans come up to you, where they're like crazy stories or creepy stories. And we've had some doozies on here of people who have had encounters with fans. Do you have any good stories to share?
I have one story when I was with, well, I've had a few fan encounters from Worst Ever, believe it or not, because I'm always I always wear my hat, you know?
Okay.
And so I was at a Bevmo one time, dropping off a key to my roommate because he and this woman came up, she goes, and she's like, Alaa, and I was like, hi, and she's like, I listen to Worst Ever podcast. I'm like, okay. And then I was just at this New York thing, this like fundraiser event a month ago, and I was with Alyssa, and because I've talked to her about Alyssa on the show, she walked up to our table and she's like, I thought she was coming to say hi to Alyssa, and Alyssa was like, she's like, no, I want to speak to Alaa. I listen to your show. And I was like, so I was kind of cool. But the weird one was, and this is when I got creeped out, was I was at a Toys R Us before they went out of business, like a year and a half ago, and I was holding my nephew Assad, and I didn't know that my brother had, because he was less than a year old, actually. It was about a year and a half ago. He was less than a year old. I didn't know that my brother had him like so publicized, you know, in the media. I really wasn't paying attention. Believe it or not, I don't pay attention to a lot of my brother's stuff. And so I was holding Assad, and we were at Toys R Us, and this couple with their child came up to us and was like, hey, would you mind taking a picture? And I was like, of course not. So I thought they were giving me the camera to take a picture of their family, you know, with their kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we want a picture of Assad. And I go, how do you know his name? And they're like, what, isn't that DJ Khaled's son? And I'm not kidding. He was like maybe 7 months old. And I was like, how do you, like, it freaked me out, you know?
Yeah, because that's not very identifiable. Kids look like kids, I think. You know?
Right. But I had no idea the extreme, like, how much my brother had really promoted my nephew in that, because I freaked out. His mom was like she was in the store with me, but I personally was like, I told him, no, actually, I can't.
Yeah. I'm not going to let you photograph him.
I
just freaked out a little bit. I was like, it scared me.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, I thought about to have a new album out, so get ready, guys.
Yeah, he's producing it, right?
Yeah.
He's like 2.
Okay, I want to go back to Alyssa Milano because I love Alyssa
Go
Milano.
ahead.
How did the two of you?
You should listen to her new podcast. Sorry, not sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that trending on iTunes.
How did you two meet?
We met. I went to college with a friend of mine, which it'll remain nameless. She's a daughter of a very famous couple, and we're no longer friends. But so that's why I'll keep her name out of it. But I had moved to LA in '94, and my friend had moved soon after. Ended up doing a movie with Alyssa, and I went with her as her guest to the wrap party at the Derby, when the Derby was still there in Los Angeles. And the three of us were friends for a few years. And then we broke up with the other friend, and Alyssa and I remained friends ever since.
So you've become quite politically active lately, because I know you've gone to various events with Alyssa.
On accident,
as you laugh.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Were you always aware of like your political views, or did they kind of form over time by witnessing everything that you were attending?
I am not very political. I'm not political in my general life. And then when her activism became more active, because I travel with her all the time, and we were very comfortable with each other, and then I started witnessing what was actually happening in this country. That's when I sort of, but like for me, it's like I can let it go. She is gun ho all the way. That's where we differ. So we're actually, without saying too much, we just shot a pilot presentation for A&E Studios, based on our relationship. It's a scripted show, and it sort of makes fun of that whole life that we have together.
Ooh, that would be
hopefully
fantastic.
So we'll be shopping. Yeah, we're going to shop it to networks, and hopefully, I don't want to give it too much away, but it's really funny. And if it gets picked up, I'll let you guys know. But if it sells, I should say, because we'll be shopping it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just did that right before we went to Atlanta, because she's shooting Insatiable right now, her second season.
And this is a platonic relationship, correct?
100%. Her husband is one of my best friends as well. Her daughter is my godchild. And they're like my West Coast family. They're like, I have Sunday dinners with them.
Okay.
When I had cancer, they were in the hospital with, it's like, we're like brother, sister.
They're your people.
Unfortunately, I am 3 months older than her, but I'm the older brother.
Okay. All right.
So speaking of platonic relationships, Brandon Bro is Christine's husband. Does he ever feel jealous, or were there any words exchanged at the beginning of the relationship, like, Christine's my woman, and I know you're her friend, but there's boundaries and limits? Like, how does that relationship go down between you and Brandon?
Are you talking about the birthing of her child?
Yeah, the birthing, and I mean, you guys are just close friends. So, has there ever been a?
Never. In fact, I think he wanted me in there more than she did.
Oh.
To be honest with you, because it's a lot of. First of all, it's a lot of pressure having. I don't know if you guys have had children. I'm assuming. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of pressure having babies, and like I said, I'm very social, and the fact that I moved around so much, I can get a. So I literally, when I'm in the hospital, I'm like a nurse or a doctor. Like, I know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I literally broke in to when her daughter was born, Georgia. She thought I was joking. But Brandon was so nervous and freaking out that, like, I added comedy relief. And then not only that, I went and made best friends with the nursing staff. So they didn't want to, like, when their shift changed, they didn't want to leave. Like, they were like wanting to stay and hang out with us. So it made her birthing experience much easier. She might say differently, but I know that. So the second one, there was no way I wasn't going in.
Okay.
Plus, I had been in Alyssa's birthing, not by choice, but I went. It's a long story, but I ended up being in hers before Christine had her kids.
So he was an experienced doula before that.
Yeah, listen to that. Now,
How did you not do it by choice? Did she just say, you're going to do this with me, or what? Alyssa.
So Alyssa had her child 5 weeks before. It was early, so we had just gotten back from New York from shooting Project Runway All Stars, and so we were in New York. We came back. It was like 2 or 3 weeks later, and the night that she ended up giving birth, that day she was complaining, and I was like, "It's too early. Trust me. They're just going to send you home and put you on bed rest. So just chill out, And me and her husband were joking around like she's like being over dramatic. And then she's like, so I left her. I think I left around 8:00 at night after we had eaten like katsuya we ordered katsuya for dinner, and then I went home, and she's like, on my way out, she goes, okay, well, just get ready because you're probably gonna have to go to the hospital at night. And I go, okay, whatever. Just if something happens, just call me, and I'll hop in the shower because I'm notorious for being stinky. So I'll say I'll hop in the shower and I'll meet you at the hospital. So I get a text, and she's like, guess what? We're going to the hospital. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever. Thinking it's just a false alarm.
Uh-huh.
And I get there, and the doctor was like, yeah, we're probably going to have to take her out tonight. I'm like, what? What did you say? And she had just sent her parents on an anniversary trip to Italy. So it was me, her husband, and her. And so her parents were literally on a flight to Italy as it was all going down. And so she just looked at me and she goes, and guess what, buddy? Oh. You get to come in the room with me, because she was having a C-section. So her husband had to go with the baby.
Yes.
And someone had to stay with her. So she looks at the nurse and she goes, put him in some scrubs because he's coming in.
Oh. Now, did you look over the screen? Because my wife had a C-section with our twins. And I could not. I was afraid I would faint.
Well, I started to, and then they were trying to give me, I turned blue.
Oh,
no. I was going to pass out. But I didn't get that far, but the whole thing was so intense that I literally was going to pass out from that one,
So,
but yeah, that's how I ended up forced to go in.
Oh
I want to go back with your relationship with Brandon and Christine, because Nick and I often have to tell people before we do the show that although we have been friends for over 20 years, we're not married to each other. And because lots of times just the way we talk or banter back and forth, people assume we're married. And we're not to each other. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is that neither one of our spouses cares about our show.
No, not at all.
Neither of our spouses listen to the show, so we bash on our spouses all the time.
We don't bash.
Well, I do. My husband, pay attention, dude, if you'd like to know what's going on. But we'll have dinner together or things like that, and these two completely get along. I mean, our spouses completely get along, and we love to do things as a foursome or an eightsome with all of our kids. But we do get it a lot that people just assume because we do a show together that we're married.
Well, I don't get that as much because I don't really, believe it or not, Christine and I have more of a phone and business relationship, and I'll come visit the kids every once in a while, because we usually record at the house, and I always bring the Georgia cake pops. She calls me Lollipop. And,
I want you to come visit my house. I love cake pops.
Yeah, I'm a huge cake pop fan. But on a social level, I can't stand Christine. I'm not hanging out with her. You know
Come
what I mean?
on.
We're not.
Are you for real?
I'm kidding. Jeez. No, we just don't hang out that much. You know what I mean? She's got two kids. I don't have children. She's got two kids. I see her when we record. We talk almost every day. Even with Alyssa and I are best friends for 25 years. Okay. Because she lives far out in the country, I'm you get me one day a week to visit, so you pick it. But when we're traveling or working together or whatever, then we see each other every day. But I'm not no one. No, I mean Christine and I were like brother and sister. She's a young kid, a younger sister than me. I make fun of her as you can hear. I make fun of her all the time. I'm still talking about this stupid Malibu house that she got for her vacation rental or whatever. And she lives. I hate staycations, you know that. And so I'll see Christine maybe once or twice every other week, maybe.
Okay.
And I don't like a lot of Christine's friends, so I don't hang out on that social like that.
Okay.
All right.
So they're probably the ones sending you the hate mail, actually. You ever think of that?
No. I mean, it's fine. It's totally fine. It's actually a healthy relationship. But it's, I have my life, but we for instance, if I have something that's going on with everybody that's in the area, I'll invite Christine and Brandon. I've hung out with Brandon and his family. I obviously went to her wedding. If they're close, for me, it's a distance thing. So if you're close by and you want to hang out, then we can do that. If it's like I got to drive somewhere to like go, I'm not into it.
You don't want to lose your parking spot. Wait, you don't have that problem anymore. Never mind.
I don't have that problem anymore, but like, LA traffic too. It's like, also, I'm also in gas prices. I'm like, I'm not, if I have to drive out to meet, like if it's not work related, I don't want to have to get in the car if I don't have to.
I get it. All right. Before we let you go, I just want to geek out and ask you one more question. It's about filming an episode of Saved by the Bell, the new class. It looks like
oh my God, that's like,
I know, but I loved that show as a kid. So I just want to know, do you remember anything about filming that episode? Was there anything memorable that went on? Can you give me a behind the scenes story?
I got in a fight with the director.
Shut up. Really?
I did. Uh-huh.
Like sure not a physical fight, a word fight.
A word fight.
Okay.
Yes.
What are we fighting about?
He gave me a line reading.
Ooh.
And as an actor, I mean, even though I was like a young actor and, new in the business and was honored to be on the show that was a hit show. I mean, work is work, right? But like it triggered, I have a very short fuse and it just triggered something. And he gave me a line reading and I just looked and said, don't give me a line reading. And he's like, what? And I go, don't give me a line reading. I'll figure it out. I go, just tell me what you want and I'll give it to you, but don't ever give me a line reading. And that, I remember that. I remember, who was the creator of that show? He would come, we'd have to have lunch, because I did a couple episodes. We'd have to have lunch all sitting as a cast together. And then they would come and give us notes at lunch with the executive producers. And it was just so awkward and weird. And so that wasn't one of my favorite jobs.
Well, weren't you afraid you'd be blacklisted for talking to a director like that?
No, because at that point, what were they going to blacklist? Like I was a guest star on a show. You know what I mean? I was like, It was like one of my first jobs. It was, so at that point, I mean, believe me, I'm not one of those actors where I'm like, I'm always grateful to get a job. I love craft service. Like that's my favorite thing. And I love earning a check. I love the process. For me, as an actor, the work isn't when you book the job. The work is the audition. That's the job.
Very true.
The rest of it's supposed to be fun. Like when you book it, it's supposed to be a fun experience. When it's not a fun experience, then it's hard. It's hard to like get into that. So at that point, I was like, I to be honest with you, if I didn't do another Saved by the Bell at that point, listen, when I did Haunted with Matthew Fox, I got fired after my fourth episode or second episode because it wasn't my fault, but I wasn't ready to shoot. They had the night before said that you're working tomorrow, and I hadn't even seen a script yet, and they sent me 8 pages of dialogue, and they used a study. Like it took me like 12 takes to get through it.
Oh my gosh.
And so I knew I wasn't coming back. I was like, they're never going to have me back. That's it. Thank God the show got canceled after 3 episodes, and I did 2 of them, or 4 episodes. I did 2 of them.
Okay. But
yeah, I was recurring on that show. They created a character for me after a co-star. But it wasn't that I didn't love the experience. It was that it was so, if it's a stressful experience, it's not like, I was so stressed out because I like to be prepared as an actor. And when I didn't even have a script till the night before at like 11 p.m. and I had to be there at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, you got to stay up all night.
Huh?
I said you got to stay up all night, and then you're going to look like hell when you come in the next day.
Well, not only that, but like I was playing a coroner. And so all the dialogue was literally like all these like medical like jargon that I had no idea what they meant. And this wasn't the time of like Google, and there was none of that. So I'd have to have like a thesaurus and to like figure out what, I'm not kidding. It was like really, so when I showed up, I'm sitting in the makeup chair freaking out going, I cannot believe I'm first up for the day and I don't even know what I'm saying. So it was just like, stressful, and it's hard to be unprepared. But like, that's just part of being an actor. Is like, you're going to have like really great jobs and you're going to have really horrible jobs,
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate your time. You've given us way more than I thought, and I appreciate you coming on Fancounters. Thanks for being here, Alaa.
So
all right, now listen to me.
Oh,
you
go
tell
ahead.
those Mouse Club guys.
Yeah.
you make sure that you tell them you talked to me today. They're going to freak out.
I'm going to tell
Yeah,
them.
we're going to tell them. They're calling in at 1:30. But
how did you get those guys, by the way?
Dale's publicist Melanie is one of my contacts.
Okay.
So that's the one nice part is after doing this show now for 90 episodes, we know a lot of the publicists where they'll come to us with, hey, this person's doing this project. Can they come on your show? Sure.
Yeah.
So
we get a lot of that.
That's what this
Nick
was.
works really hard, though, to do a lot of research. I mean, I think we have really good questions most of the time because he spent an enormous amount of time. And that's all Nick. That's 100% Nick. I literally show up and,
read.
Eat and read. That's what I do. But I wanted to ask.
You sound like Christine.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I'm truly just along for the ride here. But I want to put back into this episode. Where can we find you on social media?
Okay, so on social media, you can find me at Alaa Khaled, ALECLEDD. That's Twitter and Instagram. Oh no, Instagram. You know how I am so bad with social media, right? Nick, you know that.
That's me.
That's all right. I'll copy the links.
I think I'm at Alaa Khaled on Instagram or Alaa Khaled. I don't know.
I think you're Alaa Khaled.
Obviously, Worst Ever PC and Worst Ever Podcast. Please check us out. That's all. Listen, I'm still trying to learn how to do the Facebook.
Oh, see, I have Facebook down, but that's all I'm authorized to do. And when we do the opening and closing, I'm only authorized to give you our email address because I can't do any of the other social media. And I don't understand
it. And they can also email us at worsteverpodcast@gmail.com. But Christine does all the social because I don't get it. Like, I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I took a picture with me, Joey Fatone, and Fonzie, and Joe Movahill, and I tried to put it on our Instagram, and I told Christine, I was talking to her today, and I go, did you see the picture I put with Joey and those guys? And she's like, no. And I go, I thought I did it on Instagram. I couldn't figure it out. I can't do it.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it. It was really fun.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Got it.
Bye. Our thanks to Alaa Khaled from Worst Ever Podcast. You can thank Alaa by emailing him at worstever@gmail.com because he was the one who inspired this show. So glad he joined us.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah, he's funny.
Oh, I just adored him.
You got to start listening to that show now.
I know. I don't understand how you people have time to watch TV or listen to podcasts. I am running from place to place to place.
Exactly. You listen in the car.
Yeah, but I'm usually a distracted driver if I'm listening to something that's not like music. Because if I have to be involved in a conversation, that's, I'm not paying attention to the road. So I just need to have music and just drive.
Blah, blah, blah.
Hey!
Worst Ever Podcast can be found on anywhere you listen to podcasts, including where you're listening right now. So check out Christine Lakin and Alaa Khaled. And also, if you want to support his teeth, because we got to help him with this bill,
please.
Right? It's GoFundMe.com/Alaa's New Grill.
Yes.
I'm helping out,
Yeah.
This guy's helped us out a lot.
Totally sucks when you knock your front teeth out.
Yeah. All he wants for Christmas.
His two front teeth.
You can find us on Facebook. Go to the Sharpie Nation private group. We'll let you in, and you can learn all about exclusive things going on behind the scenes. And Twitter, @Fancounters Live. And you can also email us any feedback to
hello@fancounters.com.
See, that's all she's allowed to do.
I'm only authorized for that.
Another great guest is coming up next week, so be here on Friday morning.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
This was a podcast from the PodFix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.